Gang culture in music has always been more than just violent lyrics, flashy chains, and territorial pride. It's a philosophy, a worldview, and a form of storytelling rooted in survival, identity, and community. At its core, gang culture in music is not simply about crime. It's about how marginalized groups use music to carve out meaning in a world that often denies them one. To understand this philosophy, we have to start with what gangs represent. A gang is not only an organization of power and protection, it is also an answer to alienation. For many young people growing up in poverty, in hostile environments where institutions fail them, gangs become a substitute family. They provide structure, rules, and recognition. This same sense of belonging translates directly into music. When artists rap or sing about their set, their block, or their crew, they are affirming identity. This is where I come from, and this is who I am. But gang culture in music also embodies what philosophers might call a tragic duality. On one side, it is a declaration of life, the will to survive, to resist erasure, to claim a voice in a society that silences. On the other, it is bound to destruction, cycles of violence, incarceration, and death. Think of Nietzsche's concept of the eternal recurrence, life repeating itself over and over. For many trapped in gang environments, this cycle of life and death, of respect and revenge, repeats endlessly, and music becomes both a reflection of that cycle and an attempt to transcend it. There's also an existential dimension. Sartre once argued that human beings define themselves through choices in an absurd world. For artists rooted in gang culture, those choices are often limited. Survival may depend on joining a set, carrying a weapon, or projecting toughness. But when they turn those experiences into music, they are not just recounting events, they are shaping identity, giving voice to meaning in chaos. Music becomes a radical act of freedom, a way of saying, I exist, my struggle exists, and my story matters. Gang culture in music also engages with power and authenticity. In the philosophy of hip-hop, authenticity is sacred. Claiming a set, telling your story, and representing your neighborhood is a form of truth. Even the act of boasting about violence or money is paradoxically a way of resisting invisibility. It says, I made it out, I earned my respect, I forced the world to acknowledge me. This connects to thinkers like Foucault, who studied how power is exercised in both visible and invisible ways. In gangster rap, power is performed through language, through symbols, through sound, a way of challenging dominant narratives about who holds authority. Yet, the philosophy of gang culture in music is not static. Over time, it has evolved from raw storytelling of survival into a complex aesthetic, a culture of symbolism, fashion, and myth-making. Artists like Tupac Shakur embodied the contradictions, a man who spoke about gang life but also about love, community, and social change. Others have commercialized it, turning gang signs and colors into branding. The philosophy here is almost postmodern, blurring the line between reality and performance, between lived struggle and cultural product. But perhaps the deepest philosophical question gang culture in music raises is about the human condition itself. Why do we gravitate toward danger, rebellion, and belonging? Why does music about gangs resonate even with listeners who have never lived that life? The answer may lie in the fact that gang culture is an exaggerated mirror of human desires, the search for loyalty, the thirst for recognition, the will to survive, and the confrontation with mortality. In a way, gang music dramatizes what all of us face, just in sharper, harsher terms. So, when we think about the philosophy of gang culture in music, we're not just listening to stories of crime and violence. We're listening to expressions of existence in its rawest form, survival against odds, identity against erasure, power against weakness, and meaning against chaos. Gang culture in music is, ultimately, a philosophy of life lived on the edge, a philosophy that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about society, freedom, and what it means to be human.